Top of the morning. Hope your today is great and your tomorrow is greater. In honor of Daily Black History, we're just gonna revere the black woman today. I'm just impressed, moved by her. She's just amazing to me. One of the most precious gifts bestowed upon the world. With that being said, let me go ahead and get some another outlet, right? Try to multitask, right? Then we're gonna hop right into Legal Misrepresentation in the New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. So I'm waiting for this. So let's go. Legal misrepresentation. So far, we have seen that the legal rules governing the drug war ensure that extraordinary numbers of people will be swept into the criminal justice system, arrested on drug charges, often for very. But what happens after arrest? How does the design of the system help to ensure the cast? Once arrested, once of ever being truly free of the system. Once arrested, one's chances of ever being truly free of the system of control are slim, often to the vanishing point. Defendants are typically denied meaningful legal representation, pressured by the threat of lengthy sentence into a plea bargain, and then placed under formal control in prison or jail, on probation or on parole. Most Americans probably have no idea how common it is for people to be convicted without ever having the benefit of legal representation, or how many people plead guilty to crimes they did not commit because of fear of mandatory sentences. Tens of thousands of poor people go to jail every year without ever talking to a lawyer, and those who do meet with a lawyer for a drug offense awkwardly spend only a few minutes discussing their case and options before making a decision that will profoundly affect the rest of their lives. As one public defender explained to the Los Angeles Times, they are herded like cattle into the courtroom lockup at 3 or 4 in the morning. Then they have to make decisions that affect the rest of their lives. You can imagine how stressful it is. More than 40 years ago in Gideon v. Wainwright, the Supreme Court ruled that poor people accused of serious crimes were entitled to counsel. Yet thousands of people were processed through America's courts annually, either with no lawyer at all or with a lawyer who does not have the time, resources, or in some cases, the inclination to provide effective I'm going to say that again. Thousands of people are processed through America's courts annually, either with no lawyer at all or with a lawyer who does not have the time, resources, or in some cases, usually a lot of cases, the inclination to provide effective representation. In Gideon, the Supreme Court left it to state and local governments to decide how legal services should be funded. However, in the midst of a drug war, when politicians compete with each other to prove how tough they can be on crime and in criminals, funding public defender offices and paying private attorneys to represent those accused of crimes has been a low priority. Approximately 80% of criminal defendants are indigent and thus unable to hire a lawyer, yet our nation's public defender system is woefully inadequate. The most visible sign of the failed system is astonishingly large caseloads public defenders routinely carry, making it impossible for them to provide meaningful representation to their clients. Sometimes defenders have well over 100 clients at a time. Many of these clients are facing decades behind bars or life imprisonment. Too often the quality of court-appointed counsel is poor because the miserable working conditions and low pay discourage good attorneys from participating in the system. And some states deny representation to impoverished defendants on the theory that somehow they should be able to pay for a lawyer, even though they are scarcely able to pay for food and rent. In Virginia, for example, fees paid to court-appointed attorneys for representing someone charged with a felony that carries a sentence of less than 20 years are capped at $428. And in Wisconsin, more than 11,000 poor people go to court without representation every year because anyone who earns more than $3,000 per year is considered to be able to afford a lawyer. In Lake Charles, Louisiana, the public defender office has only for the 2,500 new felony cases and 4,000 new misdemeanor cases assigned to the office each year. The NAACP Legal Defense Fund and the Southern Center for Human Rights in Atlanta sued the city of Gulfport, Mississippi, alleging that the city operated a modern-day debtor's prison by jailing poor people who are unable to pay their fines and denying them the right to lawyers. In 2004, the American Bar Association released a report on the status of indigent defense, concluding that all too often the defendants plead guilty, even if they are innocent, without really understanding their legal rights or what is occurring. Sometimes the proceedings reflect little or no recognition that is accused that the accused is mentally ill or does not adequately understand English. The fundamental right to a lawyer that Americans assume applies to everyone accused of criminal conduct effectively does not exist in practice for countless people across the United States. Even when people are charged with extremely serious crimes such as murder, they may find themselves languishing in jail for years without meeting with an attorney, much less getting a trial. One extreme example is the experience with James Thomas, an impoverished day laborer at Baton Rouge, Louisiana, who was charged with murder in 1996 and waited 8.5 years for his case to go to trial. It never did. His mother finally succeeded in getting his case dismissed after scraping together $500 to hire an attorney who demonstrated to the court that in the time Thomas spent waiting for his case to go to trial, his alibi witness had died of kidney disease. Another Louisiana man, Johnny Lee Ball, was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole after meeting with a public defender for just 11 minutes before trial. If indicted murderers have a hard time getting meaningful representation, what are the odds that small-time drug dealers find themselves represented by a zealous advocate? As David Carroll, the researcher director for the National Legal Aid and Defender Association, explained to USA Today, there's a real disconnect in this country between what people perceive as the state of indigent defense, and what it is. I attribute that to shows like Law and Order, where the defendant says, I want a lawyer, and all of a sudden legal aid appears in the cell. That's what people think. Children caught up in the system are the most vulnerable and yet are the least likely to be represented by counsel. In 1967, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Inregault, I believe that's how it's pronounced, INREGAULT, that children under the age of 18 had a right to legal assistance with any criminal charges filed against them. In practice, however, children routinely waive their right to counsel in juvenile proceedings. In some states, such as Ohio, as many as 90% of children charged with criminal wrongdoing are not represented by a lawyer. As one public defender explained, the kids come in with their parents. You want to get this dealt with as quickly as possible. When they say, you did it, admit it. If people were informed about what could be done, they might actually ask for help. I'm going to stop there for today. The next thing we're going to talk about is bad deal, time served, and the prison label. I think the prison label going to have to be done by itself, yeah. But that's where we at with it today. Hope your today is great and your tomorrow is greater. Peace.